Yes, I'm Tony Perkins with the law firm of Bernstein, Shore, Sawyer & Nelson in Portland, Maine, Manchester, New Hampshire, and Augusta, Maine. I'm a member of the Business Law Practice Group and also the Intellectual Property and Technology Transactions Group. In my spare time, I'm also a board member of the Maine Center for Entrepreneurial Development and a member of the Maine Bioscience Association. My team and I are focused really on startup and growth companies that have advanced technologies at their core, so that they're either developing devices, services, software, and other advanced technologies, and are seeking to get those products and services commercialized. Usually first time they're going to market with something, and we try to help them shape the path and build the platform from which to operate. I would say that there are probably two or three that always jump out right at the beginning, and that is they're so excited about their innovation or invention that they are talking with everybody that they meet about it. And for intellectual property purposes, you need to be fairly careful about what you're disclosing, who you're disclosing it to. So there's oftentimes a discourse that's gone on that's maybe a little wider than you would want it to be. A related issue is that oftentimes these entrepreneurs or inventors are relying on other teammates, so-called, to help bring the product to an initial form where they can get out into the market and test it. And maybe they don't have agreements, and oftentimes they don't have agreements with these other teammates. And therefore, you've got a number of individuals who might be making claims later about who the inventor was, et cetera. You need to have a very clear understanding of how those teammates are tied together and ultimately who owns the product or the intellectual property that's underlying that product. You can count a number of instances in any given work portfolio for our attorneys where there have been differing views of what the company or the project is really going to be about. And having that articulated in an early business plan, understanding what each individual's contributions are going to be over what period of time, so that you don't have the situation where you've got a roadmap with no end destination. What is it, the old saying about if you don't know where you're going, any road is going to get you there. I think that having a clear understanding with some flexibility built in, because this is another issue that comes up as you move along the innovation path and the commercialization path, is the market looking for exactly what you have in mind when you invent it. If you're not listening to the market, if you're not getting out there and testing your thesis against what the market wants, then you're really missing a huge part of the equation as well. So while you want to have some focus and definitive product specifications, et cetera, you also want to make sure that you're flexible enough to move in a direction that the market wants to take you. Oftentimes, as I said, no written agreements amongst the founding group and in their respective roles and responsibilities, and over what period of time that it's going to take them to get to a stage where they're all getting paid for their work and their time. Second, that they don't have the market research and or market feedback about how that product or service is going to really operate. Related to that is the pricing. You know, what is the transaction chain that exists for that particular product or service? Are there distributors and wholesalers and others that are going to have to take their piece of every dollar that gets generated by the sale of that product or service? If you don't understand that, you're really going to have a difficult time in creating a revenue model that works for your company and gives you the funding that you need to operate in the early stages as well as the later stages. Generally speaking, we have with growth and startup companies, we've really kind of honed it down to a menu of services, usually set out in a chronological order. Nothing's definite, but sort of looking at the things that need to happen to build that platform, relative cost, and the sequence of events leading to financing, first sales, et cetera. And folks get an idea of the path, what it's going to cost to get there. And each one has probably got a subset of bits of advice or issues that come up or documents that get delivered. But I think it's very helpful for entrepreneurs to understand that legal roadmap as well as the business or operational roadmap or the technological roadmap that they're trying to chart the course for. There's a number of ways that folks will create sort of an easy entry into the marketplace, if you will, and that could be risk-sharing deals where service fees are reduced or deferred in return for a premium later on. Sometimes you'll give certain initial documentation, entity formation away, but the idea hopefully is long-term you're going to grow with that particular company, and you'll have a nice, robust client for many years, or at least until they sell and do the exit that they're all aiming for, or most are aiming for. So over time, you do develop a sense of who's really focused, who's got a good idea, and whether they've got the resources to execute. And it really is about understanding the market and where their product or service would fit. It's also a little bit about coachability. In other words, they are willing to take advice. They know they have expertise in their particular niche, but they don't know all of the key skill sets that you would need to run a company and develop a product or service that's going out to a large market. And that last piece, I think, may be the most important. I always say startups and growth companies are a team game. And if you don't have good teammates, or you've got one person who thinks they can do it all, then you're really going to wind up in a situation that is probably not going to be successful. First off, the variety of technology and innovation just is very interesting. From day to day, it's something new and different. Secondly, I get to hang around and work with a lot of really smart and creative people, and that's fun. That's probably the best area of the law that I've practiced, just because of the creativity that goes on, and ultimately you see some really nice successes. So you feel like you've contributed in some way to the success of that venture.